I'll have to look it up on the Googles.
Yeah.
K62 code name.
Hey guys, welcome back to the PC Perspective podcast. This is episode 596, being recorded on September 9, 2020. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Sproonberg still.
Still, yes. And we have a little bit to talk about. I was thinking initially, it's a holiday week. There's nothing really going on. But there's always something going
There's
on.
nothing going on at all this fall.
Quiet.
Next 2 months, just going to be nothing and boring.
You'll hear pins drop.
Awful. And nobody's going to be benchmarking anything.
Boring.
Not at all. No. Speaking of benchmarking, hey, that was topic number 1. And I've got to remember when I write the timestamps in.
Well, we did have an intro question here, whether or not there was a burger. Just want to make sure that.
Oh, yeah, we got to get the burger update out of the way.
Special requests. People are
was
constantly chatting about it, so.
I can't remember the name of it. It was the Gentleman's Barbecue or something like that. Single beef patty, locally sourced, never frozen, very fresh. Brisket that was smoked there. Topped off with spicy pickles, spicy barbecue sauce, cheddar on a toasted sesame seed bun.
That sounds like one of the best ones you've had so far.
I wish we had a picture. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. It was great.
Overall delectable.
Yeah, I'm not going to eat for the next 24 hours after I put that one down. So I've still got like 18 hours to go before I'll next have a meal.
I feel like you make that sacrifice for us, Josh, for the fans. Because
yes.
I wouldn't
only
want
reason.
to go without eating for 24 hours, but you do, just so that people can see that burger once a week.
Maybe it's just I can't eat for 24 hours after one of those.
Just physically, there's no room left. Yeah. So speaking of stuff coming up, obviously, NVIDIA announced graphics cards recently, and the first of which is launching on the 17th. So everybody's probably getting started testing. There's been a lot of discussion about that. Some interesting new power measurement stuff that certain outlets received. We're not going to get into that right now, but I was briefly just going to talk about, Brett had brought this up as a discussion topic, the testing methodology here at the website. So if we indeed do test new graphics cards soon, was it going to, I think we talked about this last week or the week before, like these are PCI Express 4 cards. Now NVIDIA and AMD are on Gen 4 PCIe. And if we go with the old standby Intel test bench, it's PCIe Gen 3.
What was the existing test bench, just to remind people what it was?
Core i7 9700K, 32 gigs of DDR4. I don't remember if it was 3200 or 2933. And, just other basic specs. But that was essentially it. It was a Z390 platform with a 9700K. So obviously that's going to be limited to Gen 3 PCI Express, if that matters. And obviously this came up when the specs for the new 3080 and 3090 were announced. 3090 looks so monstrous that if we ever test one of those, can it potentially push the limits of what you can get on Gen 3? So, and then there's other issues with Intel, like if you're on an Intel platform, you only have so many PCI Express lanes, and you run out of them a lot faster, the CPU lanes. So if you're using, if I end up migrating to Gen 4 storage solution of some kind, then you need by 16. Can't do that on a current Intel platform. So it made sense to move on to AMD, at least to have some data on AMD. I just straight up shifted over to AMD. And the only question I had was platform board, and I picked X570 just because I have those boards available. We have a couple of B550 boards as well, but our X570 stuff's a lot higher end. And then the real question to me was going to be memory frequency and the actual CPU. And I asked this group here, what would be your pick? If cost is no object, you can spend 700, you can spend 500 on the CPU. Are you going 3900X or 3950X if you're strictly just testing GPUs?
Pile driver.
I thought Josh made this suggestion to say 3900. I kind of sensed he was right.
Yeah.
It's a good, it doesn't peak as much as the 3950, but it's not. Yeah, and in overall gaming stuff, they're identical, and it's a cheaper processor.
Yeah, you're not going to get your $200 worth out of that 3950, really.
No.
It just seems like sometimes Windows had a bit of overhead handling the extra cores that you didn't really seem to get as much out of it as you wanted, especially in gaming, or as you would have thought you would have gotten out of it.
Yeah, I mean, games don't typically scale that high.
Right. Yeah.
So, and that was the weird thing about the 3950X, though, is that it does have technically the highest boost clocks, but overall, 3900X, I mean, and you can find it for just over $400 for the non-XT version. So my thinking was we went with the i7 9700K because it was a more realistic gaming choice than just going, because we could go as high end as we want. We could do 10980XE for $1,000. We could do a Threadripper based system that doesn't make any sense for gaming. We could go with the 9900KS or the 10900K on the Intel side, and we didn't. I stuck with the i7 because it's just gaming benchmarks. It was an 8-core non-hyper-threaded part that did really well in gaming benchmarks. But if I were to go Intel 9th gen or 10th gen, whichever it's being called, I would have gone with the 10600K instead of the 10900K because it just seems like a better.
How about the 10850, whatever?
Yeah, that too.
The
one
half
that's
step
pretty
HK,
much identical to the
was.
10900K in performance. Yeah,
and actually available.
Yeah,
there's a couple of people in different chats that are saying 3800 XT or X was faster.
Yeah, I don't have one.
Yeah. If we had a 3800 XT, it'd be interesting. But
yeah.
Weird truism here.
What we had from AMD was the 3900X and 3700X at launch, and then later we were sampled a 3600X. And then much later we were sampled a 3950X, like end of year last year, right? Or actually very early this year, I think around CES timeframe. We finally got one of those. So that's what we have from them. And instead of going out and buying like a 3800, we already had the 39. So that's what makes sense. So that's what I use.
So you didn't run out and buy that 10900KF for $500 instead of, cut down from $99,999.
It was a good deal, Josh.
It was a very good deal. You saved 99%.
Nobody's going to miss that iGPU KF, right? You're talking about the KF version.
Yeah, whatever the KF version is, I don't understand.
It just hasn't no iGPU for $200 more dollars.
Yeah,
or whatever it was.
I'm assuming it's just disabled because they're not making a separate chip there. But yeah, it's usually cheaper and it's the preferred option if you're using a discrete GPU. And those have been easier to find than the 10900Ks, that's for sure. So yeah, that was always an option. But I wanted to go AMD just because of the whole Gen 3, Gen 4 thing, having the flexibility of using Gen 4 for testing. And then,
I mean, even the NVIDIA people said you're going to get a couple of percent from going Gen 4.
Oh,
I think sales popularity is also going to drive you in that direction. Sales popularity, like what are people buying? What are they building? I mean, it's extremely popular right now. There's no reason not to.
Speaking of a few extra percentage points, Josh was the one who was telling me you could get like 5% more if on an AMD platform you're going with like 3600 instead of 3200 memory. I've had this boring philosophy since I started where I use whatever the manufacturer recommended memory speed is. So when I test an Intel platform, I'm using like 2933, 2666. On AMD platforms, I'm using 3200 for Ryzen 3000 parts.
You're the type of person that reads the instruction manual first.
Oh my God, it's no wonder he was asleep.
Well, he's an AV guy, so what do you expect?
It's true.
He lives for stereo equipment.
Look, the only thing I use this PC for is listening to uncompressed audio files. So what do I care what the memory speed is? That's what we're going with.
Half-life experience.
You're going to run all that on a 550 PSU, right?
No, it's the same 1000 watt PSU I was using before. It's a Corsair RM 1000X.
That actually becomes somewhat interesting to note, going into the 3000 series review, just to make sure that, we've got the power covered.
Of course. Power is a thing. What is that one? Is that one the 320 watt GPU, I believe?
3080, 320. Yeah, I think so. 350 up above. Yeah.
Yeah, the 350 would be the 3090.
But yeah, 320 is hanging it out there.
That's not that. it's not that crazy, but because we were talking about this last week, I think 750 would actually technically have you covered. 850s would probably give you the headroom, but for any overclocking, if you have a board, you can overclock. But the memory thing we talked about.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Memory, speed, frequency, and while I would go with just 3200 because I'm vanilla, 3600 gives you a lot better performance because you can boost that interconnect fabric, that F clock, up to 1800. Have that nice like 1-to-1 ratio between the memory speed and the F clock.
And it's a significant little boost. I was actually surprised. So, a couple of months ago, when memory started going down, I had like a pair of 32 gig 3200 DIMMs, and they had a special on Newegg for 3600 that was like C16. The rest of the timings weren't great, but doing A/B testing on the same system, it was kind of shocking to me how much faster overall it was. I mean, there are a couple of things that didn't care. I mean, Cinebench primarily just runs on the CPU and the caches, but any kind of gaming stuff above that will go into the memory. I mean, it's a pretty hefty little boost for, it used to be the prices of memory would get that 3600. You might as well just spend that money on the next upgrade CPU. But now that memory prices have all dropped down pretty dramatically, if you're buying a new machine, just get 3600 memory because you're going to see an improvement.
Or if you can find something a little bit higher at a cheaper price and then just downclock it and tighten up your timings a little bit, which can be entertaining if it works, frustrating if it doesn't.
That's too much work.
I've been using 3200 for so long that after running a 3600 megahertz, well, technically it's an overclock on this memory for a couple of days, I was surprised that those DIMMs were pretty hot to the touch, like getting really warm. I would like to see a return.
DIMM heat sinks that actually are doing something.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm using a set of, I need to actually finish a review on this, but HyperX sent over these Predator DIMMs, which I thought was kind of funny because the first thing I ever did for this website was a Predator memory kit. It was DDR3 2666 kit that I reviewed back in like March of 2014. And those had the tallest heat sinks I'd ever had. They were double the height of normal RAM. This RAM is pretty much conventional size. It's not very tall, and it gets pretty hot. So I would not mind the extra tall heat sinks running this thing 24/7 at 3600. But I'm forcing tighter timings out of it. I have it running at 3600, 16, 18, 18, 38. It's only rated for 17, 19, 19, 39. And the stock is quite a bit. These don't have super tight timings. It's not like fancy Samsung BDI stuff. I wanted a kit that was two 16 gigabyte DIMMs at 3600, and I was looking through everything I have here. It's almost all 3200, and all the 3600 stuff I have is only a 16 gigabyte kit, which really probably would have been fine. I just like, Flight Simulator. If we would start testing that, Flight Sim by itself will use 16 gigs of system RAM. So anyway,
so what were those dies? Were those Microns?
No, these are just Hynix.
They're Hynix ones.
Yeah, I used, what is it? Typhoon is the little utility that shows you all the info about your ICs. And they're Hynix. I don't remember exactly what Hynix they are, but they're Hynix. So a little surprising for the ultra high-end Predator stuff, but I think it might have been like a capacity thing because the timings are different between the 16 gigabyte modules and 8 gigabyte modules and all that. But moving on.
Cool.
Let's see here. We could go into this at length. Like on the show notes, we're talking about like GDM because Josh was trying to help me out with timings because it would not stick at the 17 1919. It was going to 18 1919. And we've mentioned gear down mode before. AMD will, by default, if it's enabled on your board, GDM or gear down mode will adjust your CAS latency for you so that your system is stable. And which is nice. It's nice for your system to boot and work, but then when you actually go and check your memory speed out and you have looser timings than you were expecting, it's a little alarming. And I couldn't get it stable at 17. Even if you turn off GDM, it wouldn't boot. And then I had to loosen up sub timings and all that stuff. So it is what it is. But
Yeah, but
somebody
it was
says-
interesting when I disabled GDM on my machine here locally. The timing went from 1T to 2T. I forget which of the
weird.
Yeah.
The command rate.
Yeah, that's
The
definitely a
command
gear
rate.
down.
yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so then once I turned gear down back on, my timing went back to 1
Weird.
command. Yeah.
I've noticed
So
on B550 and X570 that the same memory will run at 1T without doing anything, even if it does go from CAS 17 to CAS 18.
Wow.
It's all magic. It's all
From a
pure
test-
freaking magic.
Test bench perspective, though, it's important to note that there was a little bit less fiddling inside Intel BIOS outside of turning on XMP, probably.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And then
you
there's
use
so much more fiddling.
XMP done. Okay.
And then, okay, let's start benching.
yeah.
but-
Here's how you set up an Intel platform.
Yeah.
You install the latest BIOS update.
Yeah.
You make sure you have the settings the way you want them. You turn on XMP. The end. But it's more of a tinkerer's thing. Like Intel it's very solid. I have to say the Intel platforms I've used are very solid. The AMD stuff is a lot more interesting for enthusiasts. So it makes sense to be on that platform just for that reason, because that's where the DIY enthusiasts are.
But it's important to note that when you do benches, these sorts of things are fiddled with or turned on or turned off or whatever, because then people are going to be able to say, well, I can't get that on my version of your bench, whatever. People are very particular. You know what I mean?
Really?
Speaking
nice.
of, hey,
Nah, it's
people
crazy.
are very
man.
particular in our YouTube chat.
Crazy.
Two guys on the right, the top has too much hair and the bottom has none.
So statistically, we've got perfect hair.
I don't even know who's on the top.
That would be Jeremy.
Oh, that guy.
All right. What else do we have to talk about here? The AMD bike. Where was that in our show notes? We talk about that now.
Yeah, we can
comes
ride
up-
into
comes
that
up
now.
later, but yeah, you can run it anytime you want.
Let's see if I can figure out what I'm doing here with switching things around. Let's look at this.
First,
AM
unlike him, we will let you know that you can't buy it anymore. It's sold out.
They've added
Because
that.
there was some
to
excitement.
both bikes, yes. 'Cause we're on AMD's official fan store right now, and they have a custom cruiser bike, and they have a
And
mountain
a
bike.
mountain
The mountain
bike.
bike is of particular interest, but really both of them are, because you can't buy bikes right now. In case you haven't noticed. Let's see. Thank you for understanding.
Now,
Multiple
yeah,
colors.
the bottom one had orange tires.
Yeah, let's see. Is that one still available?
No.
White with
no.
orange wheels.
No.
Due to popular demand, this item is currently sold out. Oh.
Mhm.
That's too bad. So yeah, AMD was selling a mountain bike. I'm sure it's coming from Pacific or whoever the main, bike factory
If
is
I ever known,
overseas.
when did they originally release this?
No idea.
Because I'd have gotten one for $399. Because I cannot
Not that
get a
long
hold
ago.
of a new bike around here.
$299. It's even worse.
$299. Yeah.
For what that is, $299 feels high to me, but it isn't, because you just can't buy a bike. Last time I was in a Walmart, there were no bikes at all. Same with Target. They stacked up big and bulky toys in the bike section because there were no bikes to sell. So this has been a very bad year for bikes.
Well, I don't care because I couldn't have got it anyways.
Oh, it wasn't open for you? That's right. It was North
Only
America.
sold in the continental U.S.
Not just North America, where Jeremy is, but the continental United States in North America. The ultimate insult. Speaking of paper launches, this isn't really a paper launch. It's an announcement for an announcement. AMD, a new journey begins. So on October 8th, we're going to get a Zen 3 announcement. New desktop processors.
This is
Quick.
sooner than I was expecting. I was expecting like an announcement in November with some product available in December, possibly late December. But it sounds like they've got things a little bit more lined up than I was kind of expecting.
Yeah, we don't know when it's going to be released. So maybe you're right about November. Maybe they'll announce in October, available November.
Well, that's probably right, but again, it's a month to a month and a half to almost 2 months sooner than I was kind of expecting it, just because it's Zen 3.
They
But
must be worried about the amazing launch upcoming from Intel. Because those processors are just something else.
If I missed something, or are you just being very, very sarcastic?
Just
Please
tiny
tell
bit.
me no LGA
Just-
1200 stuff is coming anytime soon.
No LGA 1200 is coming soon.
Okay, good. Thank you. And then the other
Just
thing,
Tigers.
as we look at a non-text news post on this, this
Right.
all started with a tweet. Of course, a press release was sent out as well, but AMD's Twitter account had posted news of this. The RDNA 2 announcement is coming at the end of October on October 28th. So we'll have finally some information on what these new Navi things are. The mythical big Navi, will that even be a part of this? Are they going to do mid-range stuff, mid to high end? Are they going to have anything to compete with the 3080 and 3090? We just have to wait and see.
Yeah, the rumors are that it'll be a 16 gig part, and it really will slot in performance in between the 3070 and the 3080. So you can kind of guess where price is going to be. And so that it's not as high as they probably want it to be, but it's better than they have been. I mean, the 5700 XT, I've never played with one, but I guess it's okay as long as you don't pay too much attention to some of the game compatibility and driver issues that they have.
Yeah, they have. There seems to be that reputation. I personally have not encountered it, but I have such a small little subset of games that I use to test that when I have that and the platform. And here's another thing too. This is a PSA for anybody who plays with this stuff. Display driver uninstaller is your friend. If you're ever switching graphics cards, use DDU, then install your drivers again. You should be fine. And if you do that, at least in my experience, you don't have as many issues. But what were we talking about? 5700 XT?
I'm just saying that I've got a lot of issues, and it's not going to help me.
Yeah. I want to know if we're going to get the Radeon 8 on the 28th.
Radeon 8?
No, it's going to be the 6000 series.
I know.
Any
60
predictions?
Radeon RX 6950 and Radeon RX 6970. Which one will
where-
you get? And can you unlock the shaders from the 6970 with your 6950?
Yes,
It's deja vu all
If you
over.
flash the
All
BIOS.
over again.
So where do you think they're going to fall? I mean, in
Pricing?
no, in performance level of in units of NVIDIA.
Well, let me go back to this
0.8
WCCF Tech
NVIDIA.
alleged leak here. As we see this outrageous looking potential engineering sample with a full-on, what looks like possibly a Thermaltake or Cooler Master heatsink hanging off of the bottom of it. But it's 256-bit memory bus, 16 gigabytes of GDDR6. We don't know any other specifics. These are just alleged specifics anyway. And this is just one potential example too, where there could be a really, really high-end, the mythical Big Navi as well. If this is like a mainstream card. What if this is
And
the
one
new-
nice thing is that we're starting to see more FreeSync 2 professional monitors appearing. And that might actually help them. You know, it might give you a bit more reason to consider going with what AMD is going to be giving us. Because that was something that did sound very interesting, but for the longest time there was a single monitor. But in the last 2 weeks, I've started to see several of them come out, including an IAMA that's supporting the proper professional one.
Ilyama?
Yeah, YMA.
ILY.
I don't know how to say it. I just typed the damn thing.
ILEA?
It's Throckmorton Petticoat.
Yes, that one. Where was that? The G Master, because why wouldn't you call your FreeSync Premium Pro display a G Master? But they're really pushing over Acer's thing because it's the GB3466WQSU. So they're taking over the naming convention, but it's an ultra wide 1440, but it's got proper support for the AMD FreeSync Premium Pro. And there was a Philips Momentum that came out relatively recently as well, and a couple of others. So, you know, it might actually make it worth the effort to switch from NVIDIA to, because I mean, I'm sure it'll support NVIDIA cards, but not to the extent that the AMD ones will. He says on a G-Sync monitor, or a FreeSync monitor with a 1080 driving it.
Shall we move on to the big Xbox pricing and model reveal?
Yeah, this happened like a week early.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
it
it
was
was
really interesting how they pulled everything in and just puked it on the internet, and good for them. They got ahead of all these leaks.
They went with the flow.
He's riding the bull, feeling the flow. Name the movie.
So we're talking. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's Happy
talking-
Gilmore,
lost it.
man. Happy
Okay.
Gilmore.
Oh,
So you can
Kevin
start
Nealon.
pre-ordering. So you can start pre-ordering the Xbox Series X on September 22nd. So later this month for $499. $499.
$499.
That seems reasonable for what this is. If this is basically the equivalent of a mid to high end ish gaming PC, $500 is way better than you could do on your own. But
Yeah, and it'll play
people still
Blu-ray,
complain.
Yep.
4K.
Yeah, yeah.
I would.
And
I
It's
think
8K
that is
ready. Don't forget.
That is
Yeah.
that is an aggressive price point aimed not only at PC gamers but Sony.
Yes.
And Microsoft has RDNA 2 based graphics. Sony has RDNA 1, from what I understand.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yes.
Hmm.
I thought it was all
so-
RDNA 2. Okay, interesting.
No, it's it's slightly different. Well,
Fascinating.
slightly, being that RDNA 2 supposedly has a hardware component for ray tracing. RDNA 1 does not.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So $499 for that with a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD that runs their DirectX storage or DX. I can't remember their thing. GPU's doing all kinds of fun stuff in there. Shared memory. Is it only 10 gigs on the X, or is it more? I think it's still 10, because they've
Not
got
sure.
it. They've got it separated, from, kind of.
You know, they did some really
Partition.
interesting things with how they did that.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in the chat about Sony actually using RDNA 2 here.
But they have. Here's the thing. There's all this speculation out there because they haven't released as much information as Microsoft has at this point.
Mm.
We've seen the design
Mhm.
of the PS5, which I'm predicting right here is going to be $599. So it's
Kind of has to be.
it's going to be more expensive,
It's bigger.
which means it's bigger. It should cost more. But
Yeah,
we've been
Max
down
is
this
just
road
telling
before.
us that RDNA 2 is in Sony, but
Mm.
until we get more information.
Yeah.
It would make sense if it was RDNA 2 because AMD just kind of packages these things together anyway.
It'd be hard to compete against someone selling RDNA 2.
Yeah.
That would be a hard sell.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's a closed system, and so it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
But in terms of software, yeah, Series X has 16 gigs. Series X, 16 gigs. Series S is 10.
Yes.
And so the Series S is aimed at 1440p gaming,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
X is 4K.
And it's diskless.
But the price,
S is diskless, $299.
But
$299.
$300 is not bad, eh?
Yep.
But
Yeah.
they chopped down from 56 CUs to 20 or something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, is it down to 20?
And it's
Yeah.
tiny. With the external fan on the outside, it looks like a bookshelf speaker. And I bet
It
you
does. It
it's
does. Yeah.
about the
Kinda
exact
does.
same size, too.
Yeah.
Well, the other interesting thing I saw, less on the hardware but on the pricing, was that they've got a new way of doing the Game Pass. So not only if you get the proper Game Pass, you get an EA Play membership, which
And
is
you get
very
the console for free.
Yeah, for good $25 a month.
Good deal.
Yeah.
You got your
Gnomes.
console and your Game Pass.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With no money down.
Well,
who
Look
are
at
they,
the
who
credit
are they
rating you
thinking
need
of
for this.
kneecapping here? Sony. Sony sells
Yeah.
3 times as many consoles as Microsoft.
Mm.
And Microsoft has kind of been the lost leader in terms of hardware. But this time they're taking their war chest, and they're taking no prisoners this
they're
time.
put everything into this.
Higher end hardware
Mm-hmm.
at $499, and the $299 price point with the gameplay stuff is what, $25 a month. I mean, who's not going to get that? You get like unlimited games, all kinds of stuff.
What's either that or you buy the 3070.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's for only twice as much money, you can get just a graphics card.
Yeah, probably like 2 games thrown in, maybe.
Maybe. Limited time.
Yeah.
Well, the pricing is
Special
crazy, and then the renting is interesting. Because like I'm betting there'll probably be a 1-year minimum and a certain amount down for insurance, but the idea that you can just grab it for a year, see if you like it or not, and if we've got the same type of red ring of death, you just ship her back and get a new one and don't even have to think about it. I mean, fingers crossed we don't get a revisit of that, but
Well, personally, I haven't bought a console in 15 years. So, but at $299, I'm actually thinking about it.
it was probably the Genesis
I
was
got
the last one I bought.
the Xbox One S, and it's been a fantastic product. I mean, my kids play games on it. I use it for Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, Plex, all of these other applications that now they don't really charge you for. You don't have to have a Xbox Gold subscription to be able to run these things. And so it's a really, really good and solidly updated home theater media player that it just kind of works. It's a little magical. It's nice. And especially Plex is wunderbar.
Actually, I've been using Plex on Apple TV, which is not too bad. But, you know, if I could throw a game station at the whole thing, that'd be cool too. So I'm actually considering it.
Well, that's about the only thing that's made me think about the last generation was, wow, this is actually a reasonably priced media server.
Yeah, exactly.
Foon on Twitter, at Foon, Foone. This is from the Register. This is where Jeremy
This is
sourced
ridiculous.
this from. Okay, so for anybody listening, this person on Twitter took a digital pregnancy test and started tearing it down, working on it. He connected it to some sort of a hobbyist board. I'm not sure what board he's using. 8-bit Holtec microcontrollers inside of this thing, 64 bytes of RAM, 124 word ROM, some LED lights, photosensors, cell battery, and a small rectangular screen. But his goal was basically turning this into a small monitor. And you can follow along this saga and see that ultimately he ended up playing. Did he end up playing Doom on this? I think he was playing some Wolf.
Yeah, well, it started with a playback. From, if I remember the sequence of events, he was able to play and kind of just movie it, you know, just kind of to drive it.
Yeah.
But everyone reported that he was playing it.
Right.
So he had to.
Then he took the next step into the stupid realm and doomed it fully and actually played Doom on it.
Yeah, it's very hard to see what is going on here.
Well, I mean, it's such a wonderfully high resolution. It's 128 by 32 pixels. Come on, what do you want?
But hey, you know, here's the other thing. I was going through this thread when it first came up, and I thought this was entertaining, but he actually replaced the display. I believe he was using a small OLED display, whereas the one that came with it was essentially unusable for anything. So by the end of it, there was this picture that showed the pregnancy test shell with this like oversized display kind of forced in under the front plate, and then it was connected to a control board. So he didn't really turn the pregnancy test into a PC, but you know.
Well, no, but even on the original display, he got like the old skbaby.max running on it. The old baby dancing to prove that you can actually, you know, sort of figure out how it works.
Drive it. Yeah, and drive it. Yeah.
I'll have to add some better imagery when I edit this thing because I don't know why it's so hard to find. I'm thinking that he would have pinned this because it was being picked up by so many news outlets, but no.
As somebody points out, that there's a lot of mileage you can make out of the fact that you're doomed, with your, your pregnancy test.
It's that surprise imps jump scare.
Yeah, and didn't they also he ran Skyrim, the beginning of Skyrim?
Yeah, he was playing back some low-res video files on it, yeah. Okay, last on the list of news before we get to picks is a ridiculous kind of giveaway setup, in a good way. This is Gabe Newell himself, Lord Gaben. He is apparently a Falcon Northwest customer. I did a Falcon Northwest Talon review a while back. Guess I scroll way too fast.
I knew what a fan you were of Falcon Northwest, so I thought it was cool to talk about this.
I admit it.
And not only that, but the Falcon guys were not burned out of their factory.
True. So that update.
That was a wonderful, wonderful thing. It was what, Medford, Oregon, I think?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah.
So Gabe orders these Falcon Northwest Talon systems at that mid tower, and he's ordered 2 extra, which he's giving away. It's all part of this charity organization he's involved with called Heart of Racing, and it's a motorsports kind of enthusiast league. And they put on these races, and they raise money for the Seattle Children's Hospital. His race team is associated with that. So the specs on this, if I go back here,
they're craziness.
Yeah, it's the Talon mid tower with their custom automotive paintwork, which
Aston Martin.
Yeah. And then you've got nothing less than an RTX 3090. It's an EVGA, so I'm not sure exactly which model that is, but it's going to be an RTX 3090. 10900K, so it's going to be a Z3 or Z490 platform. A high-end power supply. It's a Supernova G3 1000 watt, so fairly high-end. I think that's a gold-rated power supply. And then you've got 64 gigs of G.Skill 3200 DDR4. That custom Asetek 280 millimeter liquid cooler, 2 of those FireCuda 520 drives. Those are Gen 4 drives. They'll be running in Gen 3 mode.
Oh my!
And then,
it's Intel based.
Yes.
The Z490 mean.
Yeah, Z490, 10900K.
Sorry, Josh.
It's all right. It just seems like a waste of NVMe 4.0 drive.
Yeah, only 10 cores.
A Falcon Northwest thing.
Yeah, well.
Cherry picked though, 5.3 gigahertz, 10 core Intel CPUs though.
And then you're not just getting that, you're getting, and of course those custom cable mod sleeve cables that I love so much.
Oh, those are priceless. You can't put a price on those.
Well, you can, because you can go to Cable Mod and buy them yourself. But they are not inexpensive, because those are the ones that go all the way to your power supply. They're totally custom.
And
individually
it goes all the way?
All the way to the power supply, man. These are not cable extensions. You can buy cable extensions from them, but Falcon does not use those. They use custom cabling from your board to the PSU, and it's not cheap to do that.
Yeah, and not included is the hernia you'll get when you try lifting this improperly.
True.
Oh, yeah. These are about 50 pounds just for the tower. And
put it on your belt before you lift it, guys.
It's not just a tower. Look, you're getting a Logitech G910 Orion Spark keyboard, a Scimitar Elite RGB mouse, and a Asus PG35 VQ 3440 by 1440 ultra wide 200 hertz G-Sync 35-inch monitor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The total package. You're getting everything you need. And then you get this custom paint job here, which looks nice. They do super, super nice automotive grade.
Before you move on again, hang on a sec. Now, Alan says that you'll be perfectly satisfied at 3.0 speeds for your FireCudas.
Oh, I'm shocked Alan would say such a thing.
You'll have satisfaction at that.
Wait a minute. Were you putting emphasis on SATA?
Yes, he was.
Satisfaction. I thought I detected that.
I can't comment.
People have always accused of Alan and Ryan of being paid shills, but now it's proven.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
This is one of those parts that gets cut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's true. I mean, your I/O is you're going to be limited by other things than PCIe 4.0.
Well, you've been testing it.
This may not be true with the upcoming Samsung and the second generation Phison stuff, but you're not going to get double the overall performance, just because a lot of this stuff is TLC based anyway.
Oh.
And once you get through the SLC type cache, your writes and are going to go down to like 2 gigabytes per second, if not lower. I mean, reads usually always just kind of stay high.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, when you're doing mixed type work, PCIe 4.0 is not going to do a whole lot with current gen controllers as well as memory. But yeah,
now, if you were using the 3090 for DIRP learning, then you'd actually notice a difference. But be honest, you're not going to.
Yeah. And that 2 gigabytes a second, again, that's when you exhaust the cache and you're writing directly to the TLC memory. That's what you're getting.
Yeah.
So.
By the way,
Tom or T-Jom, where am I getting data at more than 2 gigabytes per second anyway? Okay, if you're doing machine learning, deep learning, AI stuff where you're writing out loads of data, if you're doing 8K video,
Josh, how big are your AI data sets? How big are your AI data sets?
Yeah. Well, okay, the data sets are 16 to 20 gigs in size.
Yeah.
But when you're processing that, the output is it's pretty tremendous. I mean, you're filling up a terabyte fairly quickly.
Right. Okay.
I mean, hell, I bet you ArcGIS loves that.
Oh, but yeah, but ArcGIS is still like 32-bit. So
True.
F that.
I can't believe they haven't upgraded that since. Oh man, I haven't used that in a long time. But
just to wrap up that story real quick, go to the news post if you want to see the links, because it was something that Gabe posted to Reddit, and then you have to send him an email with a certain subject line to enter the contest. Anybody can enter. It's open to everybody in the world. There's 2 of these systems that they're giving away. And then if you go to the Heart of Racing YouTube page and subscribe, he's pledging an additional $1 for every new subscriber. They only have a couple thousand subscribers, so it'd be really easy to...
And if you're a Kiwi, there's a separate contest.
How long is this on for?
I believe it was until mid-October. You'll have to check the news post, but yeah.
Plenty of time.
Plenty of time to enter. Send Gabe an email, get entered to win one of those systems. Let's shift over to picks of the week. And I know that Josh was eager.
I'm an eager beaver. I can't even remember what I did.
XPG
Oh yeah.
SX 8100 series.
Yeah, it's on sale right now for $500. 4 terabytes of fast NVMe 3.0. It's 3,500 megabytes per second reads and 3 gig per second writes. But of course, like Alan would say, you only get that in certain things and benchmarks, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, 4 terabytes for $500.
He's typing now.
NVMe.
As the storage expert would say.
I mean, what does he know?
Real world usage is a little bit different.
Whatever.
Well, give us a second. We'll find out.
Gaps in latency percentile.
You know what? You can't get
blah,
that
blah,
anyway.
blah.
You know what?
Oh no, he's still
doesn't
trying to sell
matter.
X point. It's worse.
You're never going to notice it.
It's worse. He's trying to sell X point.
But anyway,
You should have just bought Optane.
Yeah, for $500. That's if you're looking for a 4 terabyte game drive, boy, that's a bargain. Save $200, which is actually 30% off. So that's ADATA makes some pretty good stuff. It's under their XPG brand. I don't know how long this the sale's going to last, but that's some significant savings, and I would love to have one of these game drives. Oh, that'd make me happy. But too bad I don't have a sugar daddy.
Not available. Oh well, okay. The 2 terabytes, $269 up here in Canada, which is not horrible.
That's not terrible.
The you don't want to pay $900 for the 4 terabyte. That's just dumb. Almost as dumb as my pick.
I'm going to jump in here. I don't have a pick officially, but I'm going to add to Josh here and say, speaking of storage, and we've made all these allusions to Alan, go over to Level 1 Techs, and, just a couple days ago, Alan Malventano showed up for a little fireside chat with Wendell. Just saying, check out that video.
Oh, he
It's
did.
entertaining.
And to drop off a couple of bricks.
Who is up next? Jeremy.
Yep, this is utterly and completely ridiculous. Don't buy it because you don't need it. But my God, it's gorgeous and just looks like so much fun.
Hey, they even say it's the screwdriver you don't need.
It really is. So it's a wee little. It's called the Kinetic Driver. It's a Kickstarter project. So if you've got say $80 that you're not really going to use, then you can pick one of these up. The idea is that there's a weight on it that's heavy enough that when you're unscrewing something, all you do is you just sort of spin it and it does all the work for you and comes out. And it's small enough that it's perfect for working on computers. And it's stupidly gorgeous. It's designed beautifully, but it's one of those things you don't need, but you look at it and go, geez, I'm really thinking. They were going for about $8,000. They're just broke $700,000.
I'm sorry. Did they take these into orbit? Is that what you said? They're astronaut tools?
Well, they look like different metals, so they might not weld, but yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay. The price for one of these is 75 euros.
Yeah.
I was thinking you were saying it was thousands of dollars for some reason, but
No,
that's
the
what I thought he said.
Kickstarter. The Kickstarter. Their
goal.
goal
Yeah,
was
they
just
raised
under
half a
$8,000
million.
Canadian.
They raised
They're
half
over
$1 million.
Yeah. From people who look at it and say, yeah, this is utterly gorgeous. I don't need it, but I can afford to buy it.
Wow.
And you just give it a spin and it does all the work for you. And then you
That's-
take the screw off.
If you're taking apart a lot of graphics cards, that's I don't know what bits come with this thing. Does it come
That's
with a lot of bits?
graphics.
24.
That's a lot.
Comes up 24 bits.
Hmm.
And you can decide whether you want brass or stainless steel for that bearing ring. Brass is the only way to go. It's an obvious choice.
Is that because of the steampunk look that you're going after? Or?
It looks nicer. It brings out the highlights.
All right.
Oh, what is this? Let's move on to Brett's pick. What is this?
This is a traversing arm for photography, so that you can get, pardon my phrasing, but so that you can get on top of something.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know I needed this until I had one, and I was like, this is really wonderful for taking live scenes, or for doing live feeds, or for getting your rig out of the way when you're taking pictures of small parts and equipment and top-down shots and stuff like that, or photographic scanning.
Top-down
type deal.
shots of small
Yep.
equipment.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's all I heard.
I knew that I would never get away with this.
It's not actually. You know what? This is a real problem. If you've ever taken close-up shots of things
Yes.
like motherboards,
Yeah, this
you
is,
can't get your freaking tripod out of the way.
right.
So this
You
is
cannot get your rigging out of the way. That's what I was trying to say here. You're totally right, and there's a legit reason for this. It's pricey, but it's actually extremely high quality. It's got a
Is it now?
yeah. I'm gonna regret saying this. It's got a nice ball head on it. It
does.
It does. It's like an air compression double concentric aluminum rod. It's
Cutting it.
okay. Yeah, I know.
Balls,
I'm sorry.
rod.
Yeah.
It's too much.
No.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a ball head, not just a
Yeah,
ball.
it's perfectly balanced when you counterweight it. It's a good deal. If this is the kind of thing you need, then you'll know that you need it. And I didn't know it existed till I went looking for one, so I thought I'd share.
And you're much less likely to break the camera than you would be if you're just hanging it from a string attached to the ceiling.
Totally. And you need a reasonable tripod if you're going to use this. Don't use any of those plasticky ones because it'll snap them like twigs.
Mhm.
Forget it. Just need an aluminum, sizable, reasonable tripod.
What about a steel tripod?
That is
Cast
okay.
iron tripod.
Yeah, cast
Yes.
iron tripod from the old when you were shooting with what is that? VHS. When you're shooting with your VHS camera, perfect. Yep, get out
Look
that
at you.
tripod.
What was that? Oh, VHS. Come on, Brett. You remember VHS?
A little bit.
Okay.
I'm still
Josh is falling
bitter about
asleep.
beta.
No, but I'm self-centering.
Oh, okay.
Censoring.
You know, everything comes from the center, I hear. Well,
Or sensor.
Does anybody have anything to add before we wrap this up?
You're a bad boss.
I think he was asleep on the job. Literally.
You take one nap, and everybody's like, "Where are you? What's going on? Where are the show notes?" All right,
He must be busy working on something. Yeah,
exactly. He's must be really busy.
Yeah, he's raising a kid. That's
this is that work-home balance thing that people talk about sometimes.
No.
I never nap ever. I cannot do it. I can't settle down and sleep. I can barely sleep at night. So to fall asleep like I did, it was just a random thing at like 8:30. I'll take it. I'll take that 1 hour power nap.
Like you fell over and you didn't get up.
Yeah, at least I was on my bed. That helps.
I wake up a little bit warmer than on the floor. Yeah.
I'll figure out where the edit point is here, but I will. Until next time. Until next week.
Bye.